It is very, very intense. You can just see all of that lightning activity in central Iowa. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning for portions of Grundy and Hardin County until noon today. That's on the north end of this line of storms, which is very, very intense and affecting mostly areas in the central part of the viewing area. That's where warning in effect for Marshall, Tama, Poweshiek, as well as northern Mahaska counties until noon. That's for the threat of winds up to 80 miles per hour, and that's not just a threat of them. They have occurred in central Iowa in the Des Moines area. There's a report of part of the roof torn off of the minor league hockey team in Des Moines. A new severe thunderstorm warning for areas that were already under one, but it's an extension until 12:30 for the area highlighted there in the white outline. That is for the threat of 90-mile-per-hour winds, and that again is a measured incidents. We had a report of a 99-mile-per-hour wind gust at the Marshalltown Airport just recently from the National Weather Service, so these storms do mean business.
Just some incredible color going from red all the way up to the yellows on the away scale, which means powerful winds moving with these thunderstorms. But I do understand we have some video from Des Moines as the storms pass through. Those storms now are to the east of Des Moines. Now you can see what it looked like as the storms were moving through. Goodness. Looks like a Casey station. You can see that. Certainly some torrential rains, but look at how that rain is just kind of blowing.
I understand that the newsroom has gathered some video of the storm as it entered downtown Cedar Rapids. Let's take a look just from out the front of our building. Yeah, that's not a scene that you see very often in eastern Iowa. Very intense winds.
That would be 60-mile-an-hour winds, 1-inch hail, as well as some very, very heavy rains. Take a look at this. This is from inside as the storm was passing in and through downtown Cedar Rapids. Just intense sheets of rain. Look at the visibility loss that you get from the rain that's falling, which you, again, normally don't see a lot in the downtown area. But with those strong winds, the visibility, even that car, which is just across the street from our door, just very, very difficult to see. Very, very
ridiculously intense wind in downtown Cedar Rapids. The storm moved in 20 minutes ago. And this is still going on. This is exceptionally strong winds for an exceptionally long amount of time. Again, don't be driving around right now because of that potential for flying debris.
Doubled with those strong winds that just continue. Look at that. I have never seen that in almost 30 years here at TV9 of debris in the downtown area flying like that right toward our entrance here at TV9.
Yeah, again, these are not tornadoes. This is just straight line winds, and straight line winds can do serious damage, and we're seeing that right now. I mean, you can see the street sign is laying on the street there, just to the left of the door there on the right side of your screen. It's just kind of hanging out there because we've had such intense winds, and it still continues. That is a very intense wind gust right now in downtown Cedar Rapids. Peeled off another small piece of that awning of the building across the street here. There goes another piece of it. Could be shingles or roof coverings in downtown.
In some ways, you're experiencing what a hurricane would be like.
Yep.
Because you're seeing those winds start and stay very intense for a longer period of time, along with some very, very heavy rains. Okay, northwest Cedar Rapids by Harrison Elementary. You're looking at, from a deck perhaps, you're looking out at some damage, certainly some structural damage. Strong winds can do that. There you see a tree branch down on some cars. Same area as well.
Oh boy, we'll get to this picture at some point. Yeah, very much same area.
Yep, same area. So again, more tree damage. You're going to see this picture repeated across many portions of eastern Iowa, south of Highway 20, as the storms continue to move through. Same neighborhood. Another tree down. You can see numerous trees down. If you look in the distance between the two houses, a couple of trees down.
Damage. We've got pieces of our roof off. We've got light poles down. Signs still really windy out here. Not as bad, not as windy as it was earlier. Again, we're out front of our station here at 2nd Avenue Southeast in downtown Cedar Rapids. You can see we've got some maintenance vehicles going by already, and you can see the water still flooding the streets right now. We've got down signs.
I've easily seen at least 10 semis on their sides or overturned. We have some police department out on the interstates trying to help those individuals. The first ones that I saw towards North Liberty headed north towards Cedar Rapids, but the more I progressed at the 218, 380, where that meets there near Kirkwood College, there was a couple turned over there. And then right before you get to downtown Cedar Rapids, there was 2 on their sides southbound on 380. And then just past the J Avenue exit heading again north on 380, another one turned over there.
It looks like there it is. There is an overturned semi just to the northbound
yeah, there you go. You can
right
see
side.
it. Yep.
And that flag dangling by one hook at this point in front of the Green State Credit Union building there in North Liberty.
Brandon, tell us what you saw.
Saw about like every single thing: wind, trees. There's a lot of buildings down here. It's really crazy right now. At my house right now, I got the window busted out right now, so I got to call my insurance.
And what part of town do you live in?
Southeast side.
We have no reports of injuries or deaths given the very strong storms called a Derecho that came through between 12:30 to 1:30 this afternoon.
Well, we are joined this evening with Lane County Sheriff Brian Gardner. And Sheriff, how is the Sheriff's Office supporting the response to the storm?
Well, basically, we're responding to calls for service, mostly at this point in time involving traffic control, debris in the roadway. We're assisting fire departments with lines down, standby for lines down, gas leaks, calls like that, in and amongst the normal calls for service that we're continuing to have in the middle of this disaster.
What are you prioritizing as you begin what will be this long process?
Sure. Well, always life safety issues are the first priority. Anytime there's an emergency call where a person's life is at stake or potentially at risk, then we respond to that in emergent. Otherwise, it's just making sure that, we're getting at 5 o'clock right now. People are trying to get home. We know that's going to be a little bit of a task for some people, so we're trying to help assist get the roadways cleared up and get people home. And would offer the suggestion, once you get home, stay home. I realize that some people may want to go out and see the damage, survey the damage on their own, but we're strongly encouraging people to assist emergency responders by, once you get home, stay home, deal with your own issues, deal with your neighbors' issues, don't get in your car and continue to add to the chaos.
We talked to Lane County Emergency Management a few hours ago, and they said that this is, north to south, east to west. This is covering the entire county. What are the challenges in responding to something so widespread?
Well, the biggest challenge is just getting enough personnel to respond. We've called in deputies early. We've held deputies over from other shifts, and we've also put some deputies on the street that otherwise would not be on the street.
This is going to be not hours, not days, weeks, potentially months, likely months worth of recovery.
And then we found this building right here. It partially collapsed on itself. We actually drove here from northwest Cedar Rapids. And when we were there, we saw a bunch of trees and power lines down. We saw a bunch of vehicles totaled because they had a tree going through them. Luckily, as you said earlier at the top, that we didn't see anyone saying that they were injured or had someone that went to the hospital, although we did hear sirens, of course, moving across. We've also had a strong smell of gas when we were driving back from northwest Cedar Rapids. But I got here about our building, our friend Mark Stouffer Hunter. Mark, you're a historian here. You may have an idea of what made this building partially collapse.
Yeah, actually it has to do with the history of it. We're standing in front of 320 First Street Southeast, across from the old Smolikoff building, and this is about a 50-year-old building. It's actually been empty since the 2008 flood 12 years ago, but one of its walls actually depended on the surviving wall of an older building that was torn down about 50 years ago. It was a building built by the Whitwer family, and that was the wall that got the brunt of the power of the winds today in the storm, and that's why it collapsed. The wall was just older and weaker, and thus destroyed the entire newer building right here.
So that's why we're seeing that wall kind of destroyed, but these walls are still kind of standing still from that windstorm.
Right, and that's also why we're seeing newer looking cinder block and brick here, and then over there you can clearly see much older, late 19th century brick from an older 3-story building that was actually home to the original Whitwer Grocery Company. So history had a role to play in what types of building collapses we saw today during the storm.
We had mentioned it was the duration of the storm that really took on the damage that we're seeing.
Yeah, and that intense duration of those winds really is what contributed to so much of this damage. If we could take a look at Max 2 real quick, if we could get a look at our radar history today. So let's start at 3 a.m. this morning. This is about when my alarm went off today. We saw some storms developing, very isolated though, in southern South Dakota, but they started to build as we went over the next couple of hours, and they started to turn severe. And then you notice it starts to get that little bit of organization into a line. The thing is, though, at this time, those storms were behind the cold front. Front was way back here, so they weren't producing a whole lot of damage. And so that's why when they reached that front, that's when those storms really got organized and proceeded to produce all of that damage. Excuse me. You can really see them take shape by central Iowa and then push to the east into Illinois.
Yeah, and that's the definition. We've seen them across eastern Iowa. Let's go ahead and take a look at the definition of what this is that moved through. The derecho, as Corey mentioned, is a widespread, long-lived, straight-line wind. As Corey showed you, as it developed, it became exactly that. And when it moved through, moved about 70 miles per hour once those storms really got going. And the winds were from 70 to about 112 miles per hour. Those are the official reports we have so far as that storm was moving through. Now, 2 other derechos to remember in eastern Iowa, and you do if you were in Iowa, Johnson, Washington County in 1998. It was June of 1998. And then 2011, of course, that was in the Vinton derecho moved through. That was an early morning event.
And there's 2 ingredients that really make a derecho what it is. A lot of energy. So we need that instability, and we had that today. That sun we saw this morning sure felt nice, but it really set us up for some really bad times later in the afternoon. And you need that, what we call wind shear in the atmosphere, and that really allows that storm to become much more organized.
I've never seen large tree branches flying down streets like this.
No, yeah, this is all new to me, and we're going to get through this. We're going to digest it, assess, contact insurance agents, and move forward.
Take a look at our storm reports. This is for the past 24 hours, but really the past 12 hours. Western Iowa, back across central Iowa, through eastern Iowa, numerous storm reports. We'll count them up as we head through the next 24 hours and let you know. But the majority of these, high wind reports as well as wind damage reports.
And here's what a good part of eastern Iowa saw throughout the afternoon. Severe weather, including hurricane strength wind pushing through, leading to so much damage.
Going to take a look at this construction site. Wow, near Kirkwood Community College in Cedar Rapids. You can hear people reacting, see those trees just bending, kissing the ground, and debris flying through the air, not to mention all that rain.
Highway 50 near Urbana, where vehicles mostly stop to wait out the storm. This is as it's happening, little visibility. Imagine being out in this, wind topping more than 100 miles an hour in some places.
Chris, right now we are outside Kennedy High School in northeast Cedar Rapids, and just driving around the perimeter of the school, there is a lot of debris, a lot of trees that are down, certainly even more branches strewn across the lawn. A lot of roofing, that looks like, that has also been scattered along the lawn in front of Kennedy. Parts of the roof that you can tell outside the Performing Arts Center, part of that roof is just peeled back like a tin can. It's hanging over the side of the building right now. The athletic fields themselves sustained what appears to be quite a bit of damage as well.
We're at Veterans Memorial Coliseum in the southwest part of town, and I'm sitting in right field where the outfield wall is completely down. It's not just right field, it's the left field wall, it's the center field wall. The entire outfield wall is completely down, and it's not just the outfield. The advertisements that are normally held down by cement blocks, completely broken. The metal bar is actually bent, and if you move further to center field, then you could see the outfield lights. They've been completely taken off their base. The wires are exposed. And it's not just the lights and the baseball field damage, it's the tree damage. You could probably see the tree over my shoulder to my left over here. We were in northwest Cedar Rapids today, and we saw a lot of trees on the road that were completely uprooted. Those are especially older neighborhoods. The trees are more mature there. The damage here is such widespread. If you look right over from the outfield, you could see one of the storage bins on one of the factories. It's completely bent, and that just doesn't happen. It happens because of the wind, and we've been seeing a lot of damage that makes you just kind of say, wow, that's amazing. And it's obviously, we haven't heard of any injuries or deaths yet, but we have been hearing sirens all day long in the Cedar Rapids community saying only call 911 if you are in a life-threatening situation.
At last check, 245,000 customers without power. That's not including the RECs and other folks out there, so it's likely up to 500,000 people in Iowa without power because of the storm. Now, part of the Czech School deli in the Nubo area, as you can see, partially collapsed. This is on 10th Avenue Southeast at 2nd Street. The wind tore down part of this brick building, causing a portion of the roof to fall in.
And here's a look also in Cedar Rapids Metro High School, southeast side of the city off of 12th Avenue Southeast. Trees in that part of the city snapped in half, fell onto vehicles blocking roads.
Right now I'm in Uptown Marion, across from Marion Park, and the Zoe's Pizzeria here has lost part of its back wall because of those strong winds. You can see these big cement bricks piled up on the side of the road, and you can see right now into the back storage room, that wall is completely torn down, and part of the roof is hanging down over the wall. It's stripped down to the wood. And we can see the inside walls that are still standing back here. It's leaning at an angle along with that red brick wall. The block around Zoe's is also seeing a lot of damage. A lot of the trees are down across the street in Marion Park.
The entire Cedar Rapids metro area is seeing at least some serious damage from today's storm. You're taking a look right now on J Street Southwest. You can see power lines down. Much more dangerous than a tree being down across a road. If you see those power lines, certainly turn around. Don't even try it. Here is a look at the damage from News Drone 9 at Cedar Rapids Ice Arena. You can see the roof is just gone there from the south rink. That's where kids and the public can skate. Damage is also over the north rink. That's what you see here. That's where the Rough Riders play.
Keeping in Cedar Rapids, Coe College's campus also without power and significant damage. The campus and the sports fields are filled with debris and tree damage. Coe expects to survey the damage to get a more enhanced assessment tomorrow. And also tonight, crews are already trying to clear some of the debris in Cedar Rapids. Mid-American trucks lining up on this street in Cedar Rapids. One of the many teams with workers likely to be out all night. So an update on injuries in Cedar Rapids. Now we know that at least 50 people have been injured from today's storms, but no report yet of any fatalities.
The damage is so extensive. It seems those straight-line winds spared few trees, knocked out power to hundreds of thousands, and the sheer magnitude of the damage likely won't be apparent for days.
Mike Scion has unlocked his front door thousands of times. He's lived in this home on Wenig Road 27 years. But he's hoping Monday wasn't the last day he stays here.
I just put a roof on it 2 years ago, so I thought my roof would be in good shape. But guess I'll have to re-roof it now.
Neither Mike nor his wife Paula were home at the time the storm rolled through, but their dog Bear was.
I was just hoping he didn't tear the house apart. He didn't have to. The storm did it for us.
Mike had no idea what he'd find, with trees and power lines down throughout the city.
I thought, well, hopefully, you know, we've got some trees down, things like that, but I didn't expect this at all. Nobody does.
Mike and Paula couldn't believe this was their home.
She was in the bedroom, and then the bedroom ceiling just caved in. Luckily, she was in the doorway and got out.
Then the rest of the roof fell too. So they grabbed those priceless memories they couldn't lose.
Clay things my kids had made when they were in school, family pictures that can't be replaced.
They were able to save those. Bear is okay too, and they'll be staying at Mike's mother's house in Cedar Rapids for now.
We at least have a place to go, and thank God, because I wouldn't want to go to a hotel right now with the way the world is.
They'll have to wait a little longer to get back to their own home.
I hope they can fix it, because there's a lot of memories in that house.
Now, while the Scion family had the only home on Wenig in which the roof just completely caved in, just about every other home on that street had some sort of damage from earlier today's storms as well. Some homes had their siding just ripped right off the side of their houses. One home actually had a tree that fell right in the middle of its roof.
Today's severe storms also impacted Jones County.
Martell was hit hard by today's storms. Folded bins and trees on the ground set the scene. Dave Smith had never seen anything like it before.
Nothing's ever been that bad around here. I mean, there's been other straight line winds before that's blew bends over and stuff, but nothing like that here.
You couldn't possibly miss Dave's house from the road. His enormous trees were completely pulled from the ground.
Kept watching the trees and they just all of a sudden fell over like dominoes. What can you do? It's Mother Nature. There's nothing you can do besides clean it up.
Neighbors in town tell me their biggest concern is being without power for a long time, and those concerns are justified when you see the aftermath of the storm. This wire completely tangled and taken down by this tree. One of those neighbors is Chelsea Bloom. She says she heard of the storm through friends and social media.
Even our neighbor said, family in Des Moines, be ready, it's strong. So we were outside, got everything we thought would blow away, secured down.
She also says it's the worst storm she's ever experienced.
The craziest storm I've been through. This one seemed to go on for quite a while, tons of tree damage.
Neighbors are expecting to be without power for at least a week.
Cindy Tomlinson with Alliant Energy joins us now on Newsline 9.
I think the most important thing to know is that our crews are working and they're doing everything they can as safely as they can to get the services restored. it's going to be some time, so we would ask people to be patient. There's a lot of damage, there's a lot of trees down, a lot of poles down, and it's just going to take time in order to clear all the debris and get everything back to normal.